The first sound was the engine rising as the light changed, a deep diesel pull that told Ben Carpenter the semi had started moving. Ben was already in the crosswalk on Red Arrow Highway in Paw Paw, Michigan, his motorized wheelchair humming beneath him, his aide a few feet away. He had crossed legally, but the intersection was wide, and his chair was not fast. For a moment it felt like any other afternoon, just a young man out for air and motion, rolling along a road he knew. Then the front bumper touched his chair. It wasn't a violent hit. It was a nudge that shouldn't have meant much. But the semi kept creeping forward, and the chair didn't slide away. Ben felt a jolt through the frame as the wheelchair turned parallel to the truck's grill. The hand grips at the back of his chair slipped between the grill slats and caught. In 1/6 second, his freedom became a hook. The truck accelerated. Ben was pinned to the front of an 18-wheeler, pushed down a 2-lane highway at speeds he later estimated around 50 miles an hour. The wind slammed into his face. The pavement blurred inches beneath his footrests. He tried to yell, but the air ripped the sound away and the cab towered above him like a wall. The driver sat high in the rig, looking out over the hood, unable to see what was directly in front. Ben knew that, because he could see what the driver couldn't: the roadway, the oncoming cars, the narrow shoulder, the places where a single mistake would turn him into a headline. He always strapped himself into his chair. It was a habit drilled into him after muscular dystrophy put him in a wheelchair years earlier. That strap was the only reason he didn't tumble forward under the bumper when the semi picked up speed. But strapped in meant he was also trapped. He couldn't jump free. He couldn't stand. He could only hold his posture and hope the chair stayed upright. Behind him, his aide ran toward the shoulder with her phone already out, screaming into a 911 dispatcher as she tried to keep the truck in sight. Drivers who caught the scene did the same. Calls started coming in around mid-afternoon, people describing the impossible in careful, disbelieving tones, a semi-truck pushing a man in a wheelchair down the road. Ben watched the wheels of his chair drag and skid, rubber smeared into long black lines along Red Arrow Highway. He felt vibration and heat build through the frame. He could smell it, hot tire, hot metal, like a machine being forced past its limit. Every bump in the road transmitted straight into his body. His hands tightened on the armrests, and his mind ran through outcomes he didn't want to name. If the chair tipped, he was done. If the driver swerved, he was done. If a car clipped the side of the chair, there would be no time to react. He tried again to get attention, turning his head toward passing cars, searching for a face that could help. Some people stared. Some honked. Some sped ahead, maybe to call police, maybe because they couldn't bear to keep looking. Ben saw a few drivers slow, matching the truck for a moment, their mouths open as if they were watching a stunt. He wasn't. He was living inside a mistake that wouldn't stop. The semi kept going. The driver was headed toward the lot of his business down the road. Inside the cab, there was nothing to signal what was happening. No thump big enough to feel through the seat. No impact loud enough to cut through engine noise. The truck was simply moving forward, and Ben was simply there, trapped at the point the driver would never think to check. The ride lasted about 2 miles. To Ben, it felt much longer. Time stretched in pieces. Every intersection, every passing driveway, every moment he expected the truck to turn or brake or hit something. When the semi finally turned into the lot, Ben's body braced for the shift. The chair stayed jammed in the grill, the hand grips locked tight, the front of the truck carrying him like cargo. An undercover police officer had spotted the scene on the highway and followed. In the lot, the officer pulled in fast, stopped the semi, and got the driver's attention before he could move again. When the driver finally climbed down and walked around to the front, he met Ben's eyes and froze. The shock wasn't staged. He looked like a man who had been told the world had changed while he wasn't watching. Ben was alive. He was strapped in. He was shaking. But he was alive. Paramedics checked him and took him to Bronson Methodist Hospital in Kalamazoo to be evaluated. His mother, Joyce, a nurse there, was at work when a co-worker pulled her into the hallway and told her her son had been hit by a semi. The next sentence, "Ben is okay," couldn't erase the first. Not immediately. Not for a mother whose mind had already pictured the worst. At the hospital, doctors looked for the injuries everyone expected. There were none. Not even scratches. Ben's chair showed the punishment more clearly: foam on the hand grips worn in places, a bracket knocked askew, a dent in an armrest. The tires were ruined and had to be replaced, but the chair itself survived. In a story that should have ended in disaster, the most damaged things were rubber and metal. His father, Don, admitted later he laughed after he learned his son was safe. What else can you do? The alternative is to sit still with the image of your child pinned to the front of a truck, moving at highway speed, and ask why he's still breathing. News crews arrived. Phones rang. Networks called. Ben, usually shy, answered questions with a steadiness that surprised his parents. He described the speed, the feeling of being invisible, the certainty that he was going to die, and the one small choice that mattered most. He always buckled himself in. In the days after, the attention followed him, but the reality stayed. He went back to look at the skid marks on Red Arrow Highway, the long, dark streaks that proved he hadn't imagined it. Those marks were his timeline, drawn in rubber across asphalt, 2 miles of motion he didn't choose. Early reporting didn't release the driver's name, and the trucking company acknowledged how the cab's height made it possible for a person in a wheelchair to disappear from view at the front of the rig. The intersection, the timing of the light, the chair's hand grips lining up with the grill slats, each detail was small, and together they formed a trap. Ben kept his plans to attend muscular dystrophy camp that weekend. The tires were replaced in time. Life resumed, but not as if nothing happened. He had stared straight into an accident that should have crushed him, and somehow it didn't. He carried the memory of wind and engine noise and helpless forward motion, the sense of being carried through the world by a machine that didn't know he existed. Survival has its own weight. It means remembering the moments when you were sure you were finished, and then waking up anyway. It means knowing how thin the margin is between ordinary movement and disaster. It means living with gratitude that is not gentle or distant, but hard and physical, like the strap across your waist that kept you in your seat. Thank you for listening to Horrifying Survival Stories. Subscribe for more stories of those who faced the impossible and lived.